All right, we're making fun of a libertarian. Our economic illiteracy crisis refuting socialist mayor policies. Oh boy. Listen, speaking as one of Zoran Mamdani's strongest super soldiers, I'm curious to see what this libertarian has to say about socialist mayor policies. Who was the last libertarian that we went after on this fucking channel? That was a while ago. I believe that was Liquid Zulu. Yeah, it was Liquid Zulu with his like stupid Mycenaean bullshit or Mises Caucus fucking bullshit, where he was talking about socialism. Yeah, I think he was talking about socialism, and he had like no fucking idea what he was talking about. Well, another day, another libertarian, um, to go over. What do we have here?
We are poor.
I thought this guy was a libertarian. This guy's already doing like fucking schizo fash edits or something. Well, that didn't take very long. Libertarian, by the way.
The solution is higher taxes.
Hey, Internets. So recently in the United States, a couple of socialists have won mayoral elections. You may have heard these two names.
Okay, so the solution is higher taxes. Let's just go real fucking quick, okay? Yeah, it is, you dumbass. For the amount of tax dollars that the IRS collects, you get a return of about God, I forget the exact statistics. For what is it? It's for each dollar that's given to the IRS, you get about $7 in return. It might not be that. It might not be that exactly, but yeah. It turns out if you give your revenue services the ability to be able to fight the white collar tax cheats, they'll be able to recuperate a lot of fucking money for the federal government to be able to spend on social fucking programs. But libertarians hate that because, I don't know, something, individualism, something, they just hate the poor, blah, blah, blah.
Spouted in the news: Zoran Mamdani in New York City and Katie Wilson in Seattle. And what's relevant about this is that these recent events have proven that the greatest threat to Western society isn't some clueless blue-haired woketoid shouting into a microphone during some anti-bad guy squad demonstration, that the Western developed world needs to import infinity plus a billion refugees and supply them with infinity welfare and infinity free housing, and that we are to accomplish this task.
Man, I thought you were a libertarian. What happened? I was expecting some fucking libertarianism. We're already doing the all the like 3 IQ fucking talking points that every single fascist has to say about immigration. Yeah, dude, because that's the purpose behind fucking immigration, to import in a bunch of people to take up fucking spacing and housing. Yeah, dude, exactly. Not for the express purpose of them to just be fucking exploited by a bunch of corporations and the rich in order to make a fuck ton of money. Yeah, totally.
Somehow without actually changing welfare into a voluntary system or doing anything to address the zoning laws in regards to housing construction, and of course by doubling down on the laws that violate freedom of association instead of abolishing them or addressing the ballooning national debts. And then of course these same people wonder why inflation is so high, why public trust is at an all-time low.
Why the fuck do you support conservative policies then? Every single Republican fucking president has blown up the debt and the deficit by huge margins. Reagan tripled it. Trump alone is probably going to be responsible for about a third of the fucking national debt. Why would you support conservatives when they have been the guys who have consistently been blowing up the debt? Nice fucking meme, dude.
Or why housing is so expensive and why the welfare system keeps failing. Those people are definitely a big problem, thinking you can give—
No, the reason why housing is failing within the fucking United States of America is because of housing developers having outsized control within fucking local politics, right? So generally speaking, there's not a big supply of housing within the United States. Now, MentisWave here does correctly point out that is a byproduct of bad zoning laws. That is part of the reason. But another part of the reason, and this is what those Ubuntu dipshits constantly fucking forget, another aspect of the problems with housing is the fact that housing developers are not willing to pursue certain housing projects unless, it is a big unless, they are guaranteed to be able to return a profit. Oh, it turns out that having the profit motive within housing is actually kind of bad, but unfortunately for this libertarian, he just wants a bunch of poor people to fucking suffer. That's really all there is to it.
Infinity people, infinity free stuff are definitely an issue, but it's time we really look at the root cause of the problem. What's really going on in their noggin that causes them to believe that this could actually—
Okay, I know that he doesn't get this because this guy is a fascist. Immigrants, and that is illegal immigrants, do not have access to the social safety net. They don't get benefits from Medicare. They don't get benefits from Medicaid. They don't get SNAP, but they pay their taxes. And those taxes go into those social welfare programs. So they're just a free tax base. Like, unironically, they are just a free tax base. Unfortunately, I wasn't anticipating that this guy would already be spouting out all the stupid, idiotic bullshit, like, instantaneously, but here we are. He'd at least get to some fucking goddamn argument before any of this, but I mean, whatever. Yeah. Basically, like, in the United States of America, and I'm being unironic when I say this, the illegal immigrants, they pay taxes, and they're basically a free tax base for the United States of America, because they pay that shit and don't get any of the benefits from it. Man, you know, for all this talk from Americans consistently talking about no taxation without representation, they sure do love to just tax people that have, like, basically no representation, and that's kind of interesting.
Actually work, but rather I'm talking about a problem that even some people who are viewed by the public as being far right are guilty of. I'll stop beating around the bush. This issue, of course, is our severe economic illiteracy crisis. It seems that large numbers of fairly well-educated people, especially amongst the youth, unfortunately, seem to not understand that many of these socialist policies have been tried and failed. And not only have they been tried and failed, but they failed for almost comically obvious reasons that could have been easy.
What, social housing has fucking comically failed? Vienna would like to step in and say, actually, no, our social housing policy has not comically... this guy's probably going to bring up fucking Venezuela or something. I can already fucking see it. I'm already perceiving that it's going to be fucking Venezuela. It's going to be Venezuela, isn't it?
Easily foreseen by any rational person. And the fact that we're seeing this economic illiteracy on both sides of the political spectrum to some degree really proves it to be a systemic issue where our flawed, arguably by design education system has critically failed in its role to inform the public about the basics of the basics of the basics. Which, on the bright side, kind of means that if you're one of the people who believes in one of these things that I'm going to refute in this video, it's almost kind of not your fault. Because they don't really teach a lot of this in school if you're just a regular person and you don't really have a serious...
I mean, you've already been saying a bunch of, like, really idiotic bullshit in your video already. So, personally, I'm just going to throw this out here. I'm probably going to be bringing up the Uno reverse card quite often when refuting a bunch of this idiot's fucking bullshit, aren't I? Because he's already been lying in this video. Like, 30 seconds in, he started lying. It's incredible.
Interest in economics, chances are pretty good that your general public school teacher didn't tell you about any of these things. And in fact, there's probably a higher chance that they outright lied to you about them. And it's understandable, really, because some economic concepts can be admittedly a little boring. So in this video, I'm going to try and remedy that by identifying a lot of the economic concepts that a lot of people are clearly misunderstanding, as proven by these recent elections, and provide some refutations to some of the nonsense and clarifications, while still keeping things as interesting and meme-worthy as possible. But first of all, let's just make sure you're not one of those people in the year 2025 who is still not using a VPN on the internet, despite the fact that a VPN will save...
No free advertising. Fuck you. Don't care.
Guarantee. Seriously, it's a good VPN, get it. Anyways, before really refuting anything, I would like to start this off by giving you all a basic cheat code that will allow you to understand a lot of economic concepts, in fact, most economic concepts really, simply by fully and completely understanding this. Which is that when it comes to the power dynamics of trading, there's actually kind of a true dichotomy in it. There are only two ways you can really get people to do something or give you something you want if they don't feel like doing so. You can either force them to do so by using power, or offer them a reward for voluntary compliance. That's pretty much it. You're doing one or two of those things. You're either punishing
So, enforcement through, well, force, so stuff like colonialism, slavery, blah, 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 sure, yeah. And, what, giving them a reward system? Like, does this guy mean trade? Like a bartering system? What does this even mean? I'm being genuine here. What does this exactly fucking mean? I don't understand. Like, when people trade with one another... they get some form of good or service in return. That is what is known as an economic exchange, right? Like, it seems pretty fucking simple, right? Like, I don't know what he means exactly by this.
People or rewarding people for giving you what you want. Or trade, as we like to call it. There really isn't much of a magical third option to this. You can try and use things...
Okay, like, that's not reward for something? Like... does he think this is a fucking video game? Right, like, does he think it's like a fucking fetch quest? It's like, no, there's a fucking deal done between, like, merchants or nation states or whatever. Some kind of deal that is struck. It's not a fucking reward system. What the fuck are you talking about? No, Party A and Party B come to the table, they negotiate a fucking deal or whatever, in exchange based off of a certain quantity or certain value, and then they do the fucking trade. Like what the fuck is this like reward quest system bullshit? Like what are you fucking talking about here?
Things like guilting people into doing what you want, but honestly that's also a concept that falls under power because it only works if you have power, or at least some kind of intellectual authority gained by first going through this dichotomy. So if you truly understand this, if you realize that it's either power or voluntary association, and you truly fully get all of the things that this fact implies, then again, congratulations, you now understand most of economics. And what's nice about this cheat code is that you won't just start to kind of understand economics the more you think about it and the more you realize what it implies, but you'll also understand why certain economic concepts are the way they are, which hilariously enough, truly getting this will eventually even put you a cut above a lot of well-educated economists, because one problem with standard economics,
oh my god, can we get to the argument, please? Please.
It focuses way too much on the what and not enough on the why. For example, you can go to college and study things like stochastic discount factor, which is a moderately complex economic mathematical concept that tries to help you determine the true value of an asset by discounting how its cash flow is expected to go in the future. Now, what makes it somewhat complex, aside from just the math, is that, of course, the cash flow is variable. And what I often see is economics majors, they'll somehow walk out with their degree understanding concepts like this, but having no clue at all why it happens. Which is weird, because you just consider this basic dichotomy, it becomes kind of obvious. Trade in regards to quote-unquote what people want and what rewards people will accept in order to fulfill the desired outcomes in the future is subjective over time. People don't always want the same things, and so naturally over time there will be variability. It's not actually possible to be 100% accurate, and thus from that you will come to the realization of why you need logic to truly understand economics. You can't just simply memorize a lot of it mathematically.
I should have fucking called. Yeah, this guy. No wonder this guy's a libertarian, but he says a bunch of fucking fascistic bull. Yeah, I knew he's a fucking Mises dipshit. I fucking knew it. Okay, I know exactly what to fucking expect. Some stupid dipshittery from Ludwig von Mises, where he barely understands any principles and concepts of fucking socialist economics and policies. All right, well, I'm still waiting for the fucking arguments, by the way.
Formulas and leave it at that. A lot of economic models will help you, and they'll usually be right, but when they're wrong, people just kind of turn into flabbergasted monkeys. And so that's why you need the Austrian school of economics to truly get what's going on. And that's just one example of something that you'll eventually figure out if you fully and truly understand what it implies by the fact that you can either trade with punishment or trade with reward. And you also kind of start to understand the basic problem with government intervention. Like, for instance, this tweet from...
I don't know how many times this has to be said. It's not fucking... You don't trade with reward. It's just an... You come to the deal, to the table, you make a fucking deal, and then you exchange, I don't know, products, property, whatever. Like, this isn't a quest system. This is not a video game. This is reality. So, I don't know why you keep saying it's, like, via reward or something. Like, you literally said yourself, voluntary fucking exchange. I still don't understand why he's saying stupid bullshit like, you know, it's all about... I don't know, getting reward out of something, a reward out of this exchange. It's like, that's not necessarily how it works, you know. Two parties come to the fucking goddamn table, they make a fucking deal based off of, I don't know, like, what they want, when they want it, or however they want it. You know, there's 17 trillion different ways that this gets fucking determined. However it gets negotiated, gets fucking negotiated. Why are we, like, bringing in, like, game mechanics into all of this? Like, that's very strange to me.
Elon Musk. The reason government programs are so inefficient is that, unlike a commercial company, the feedback loop for improvement is broken because they have a state-mandated monopoly and can't go out of business if customers aren't happy. No matter how bad the service is at your DMV, sorry to pick on DMVs, you still have to use your DMV because it's a monopoly. Although me personally, I'm not sorry at all DMVs.
So DMVs are a government service. DMVs are not a fucking business. Why are we saying that DMVs are basically like a fucking business? It's nonsense. It's just nonsensical. Like, the purpose of a DMV is for the Americans in chat. The DMV is mostly used to get your fucking licensing. I know that's like the first thing. I am a Canadian here, so I'm not going to be 100% certain what like a DMV is for. Or I guess some of the other services provided by DMVs. But that is what allows you guys to get your fucking licensing. Or if I could come up with like an analogy for where I live in Canada, if from what I understand, it's like Service Ontario, where Service Ontario does a bunch of different services for you. Like, for example, getting you your licensing, renewing your health card, a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, license and registration. I don't know if you guys have health cards within the United States of America. Basically, if there's like some kind of like state ID thing that you generally need, that's what like Service Ontario is for, right? And I'm operating off of the assumption that the DMV is similar in that particular respect. I'm not 100% certain. I'm just going to assume that's how it works as well for DMVs.
It sucks, and it's always annoying to go there. But seriously though, this tweet from Musk is really just rooted in understanding of the trade dichotomy. Because government programs are based on power and forcing people to do things, rather than the voluntary side of trade, it can keep going.
No, you fucking moron. It's because a lot of government programs, for example, are fucking voluntary. Like, what are you talking about? You don't have to go get food or like food assistance or differing sort of health benefits and assistance if you don't want it, right? Like, you don't have to do that. Health card goes through private insurance companies, right? Yeah, because your system is fucking completely privatized. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's true, Fiveblitzer. So no, like that's already not how that fucking works. You don't have to go get your fucking driver's license, for example, MentisWave, if you don't want to go get your fucking driver's license. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I had no idea that the government forces you to basically go get a fucking driver's license at every single point in time. I had no idea that the federal government had such a close relationship with all the fucking automobile companies. Oh, that's crazy to me. Oh, that's news to me.
Even if people don't like it, and so inefficiencies don't get improved on, and thus government programs are doomed to eventual inefficiency. No matter how well designed they are from the get-go, the fact that it's based on power means they don't have that voluntary component, and so there's no real incentive to fix things when crap goes wrong. And so that's your basic cheat code. Just remember this dichotomy, remember that trade is either voluntary or it's not, and you'll become capable of, just from a logical basis, being able to see through a lot of really stupid commie propaganda. Which then brings us to our first lie that is fueling our economic illiteracy crisis. And that is this lie of neo-socialism. Socialists in the modern-day clown world want people to think, and they've unfortunately kind of successfully gotten this propaganda to the younger generation, including sadly my own generation, the millennial generation, that there's some kind of new spin on socialism that's going to make it totally not fail this time. That socialists have learned from the past, and there's this new, hip, trendy, scientifically accurate way to do socialism and have a fair and free economy and have it finally work for the common man. And so the theories behind socialism have finally been perfected, the flaws have been ironed out, it's totally going to work this time, guys, and it's going to be great. Hence why I call it the lie of neo-socialism, that there's something new that we just haven't thought of yet that's going to be better. And indeed, this is one of those things where if you understand that cheat code I gave you, that dichotomy of trade, you realize that no, there's nothing new they're really offering here at all. Because the thing
okay, Jesus Christ, like what? So far, your fucking current argument with the fucking DMV is incredibly fucking stupid because I had no idea that the state inherently coerces you to go get a fucking driver's license. Incredibly fucking stupid so far.
Is it's not some ubiquitous, just general socialism that's the issue, but rather the problem is that they're proposing policies that are rooted in punishing the producers while rewarding the consumers. That's what the whole free stuff dance they offer is really about.
Are you actually fucking brain... okay, that's a rhetorical question. Yeah, you are. Isn't that supposed to be the point of fucking capitalism? To give a good product so then you can have a customer base to constantly keep buying that product over and over again. Oh, wait, never mind. With the current sort of like makeup and shtick of capitalism as it is, everything is fucking fake and nothing is real, so who really gives much of a shit about that? So, whatever. Like... I thought the point of capitalism was to basically have as good of a hecking product as possible in order to be able to outcompete your fucking competitors. This guy is already having a very difficult and inaccurate sort of definition of his own fucking economic system that he's pretending to fucking defend here.
And so when you look at their policies, you realize that they're really just a bunch of things that have actually been tried and failed. There's nothing really new here. Like Katie Wilson has proposed increasing taxes on quote-unquote the rich to fund government-subsidized housing and a citywide capital gains tax, while Mamdani has run on rent control, even rent freezing, and free public transit and government-run grocery stores. All of these are policies that have been tried and failed. They don't work. There's nothing...
Like, where in the United States of America? Are you gonna, like, specify, like, where? Where has this been tried? Like, in America? Like, where? Also, okay, I don't know how many times this needs to be said, but free public transit, we have that shit in fucking Canada. So, for example, if you are a university student and you pay tuition, you can get your hands on a fucking bus card. You get a bus card. That shit's basically fucking free. It gets subsidized by the university because you are a student and you pay tuition. Your tuition is used to give you a fucking free transit card. Something like that fucking works, right? Where you use taxes that Mamdani's going to raise with his fucking wealth tax, taxing the corporations and the rich in order to subsidize the fucking busing throughout New York City. I mean, it's pretty fucking simple, but the main problem is with this libertarian is the fact that the outsized control of the corporations and the rich is being fundamentally fucking challenged. So that's cool. Not in the US, you have to pay for city transit. Well, same here, Fiblitzer. Typically, you would have to pay for... if you're, like, a random private citizen, for example, you would have to pay for... it depends on the city, of course. I'm not sure what it's like in Toronto. Maybe in Toronto they have it fully subsidized. I don't think so, personally. I'd have to double-check that. But if you are, for example, a university student, and where I went to university in Ottawa, Carleton University, and you were able to get a transit card if you were a student. You can go to the student area, like whatever the commons area that exists within for the administration of the school. You just go there, you can get your picture taken, you get your fucking bus card, and then it activates pretty much the same day, and then you can go on any bus, and even the trains, because we'd also have like a train system that went locally in the university that can went to the southern parts of the city and also towards downtown as well. That was also free to go on as well, because you were paying for your tuition to the university, right? So they let you have a fucking bus card, for example. It's effectively free public transit, right? It's being subsidized through paying tuition, which in this sort of analogy is the same as taxes, right? It's similar in that respect.
Thing new here. It's just now being sold to us by people who are slightly younger, in their 30s and early 40s, rather than just old Bernie climbing out of his chair to tell us that the solution to government corruption is, of course, somehow more government. Yeah, no, it's the same crap. Government-subsidized housing doesn't work because it's inherently inefficient, it doesn't really make the housing that people really want, and of course it ignores the real problem behind the housing crisis, which is poor zoning laws, which create an artificial monopoly on land, and
okay, I'm still, like, curious, in what way exactly is social housing as insufficient, right, or not inefficient, right? Like, he keeps saying that it's inefficient, he keeps making a bunch of claims. I'm like, he still has not provided any arguments. What's the fucking argument? Where's your arguments? Any arguments? Arguments? I'm looking for the arguments, and so far I'm like not providing any. Because I don't disagree with what MentisWave is saying here. MentisWave is correct in saying that a big problem within the United States of America is poor zoning laws. I don't disagree with that. He's correct there. Absolutely. But he keeps talking about how it's only the poor zoning laws which is causing a monopoly, and is having zero mention for how developers, and this is the exact same thing that I criticize all the fucking Abunda fucking dipshits on consistently, not talking about the outsized control that a lot of fucking developers have when it comes to those fucking zoning laws, how they will consistently lobby a bunch of municipal fucking governments in order to have favorable fucking zoning laws, so then they can make as much fucking profit off of housing as possible. Like I said before, a lot of developers within the United States of America are not going to build housing, well, within a lot of different cities, unless they have more or less been given guarantees that they're going to make a profit off of it.
Artificially lowers the supply of housing. This is kind of a silly midwit meme that's out there. A lot of times midwits will come up with a bunch of silly ways to solve the housing crisis without increasing the supply of housing, and they're wrong. Every time this has been tried, it has resulted in low quality housing produced at a lower...
Wait. Is he saying that Mamdani has not proposed plans to build more fucking housing? But what? Mamdani has a plan where he's going to build more units of affordable fucking housing throughout the next, like, I would think it was like through 5 years or something, and throughout the next 10 years, there's going to be like 200,000 plus units of affordable housing, from what I recall correctly. I don't know if it's 10 years or exactly, you know, he's already talked about this. So is he just lying here, or does he just not know? Lying, or he doesn't know? You can pick, I don't know, take your fucking pick.
lower rate than a free market policy would have created. And what's interesting is combining this with a capital gains tax. What happens with this is that it creates something known as a lock-in effect, which is where someone has an asset that has a gain on it, a capital gain. So something's increased in value, but they don't want to realize the gain, and so this actually disincentivizes trade. And there's a lot of examples of this, but you know what one big one is? The housing market. When you have this kind of tax, it actually hurts the housing market by encouraging people, or companies even, to sit on properties forever instead of actually selling them to people. Again, kind of obvious when you push the logic of understanding that.
Maybe because of the fact that all of these more recent housing projects, MentisWave, have been mostly luxury condos for a bunch of people to have, speculation on them. Maybe that's the actual fucking problem with the fucking housing market, and not whatever fucking schizophrenic nonsense that you're currently putting out here. Because that's the real issue with housing. And I'm going to bring up Canada here, for example. There's a lot of fucking speculation done with luxury fucking condos. And I know this is also a thing within New York as well. And I'm not sure if it's as bad within Seattle. I'm going to assume, given its proximity to fucking Vancouver, that it is rather similar in that respect. But the reason why we had a fucking housing crisis here, specifically in Canada, is due to the fact that most of the housing that got built in this country were luxury condos, right? And for what purpose were most of these housing projects that were getting approved? What was the purpose of them being mostly luxury condos? It was for pretty much the express purpose of having foreign investment come into the country, to have a bunch of foreign students come in and, well, join fucking Canadian universities. That is why. And as a result, with the recent immigration wave that we had in Canada, I think it was about 1 million migrants or something. We didn't have any fucking inexpensive social housing to house all these people, and that bubble, which was there, because of all the luxury housing that we kept building in most of the large Canadian cities, popped. And I knew something like this was going to happen about 6 years ago or something, because I read a bunch of stories and articles talking about how people from Toronto were moving into my neighborhood. I was just like, and then I read it because it was because of cheaper housing. I was like, I know exactly what's going on here. That's a fucking bubble. Now, when it was going to burst, that's a whole different question. What's going to cause it to burst? It's going to burst. There's a bubble there. Because if a bunch of people from a significantly more well-paying city that gets paid a lot more money in order to be able to live in that city are moving to a more inexpensive city, like where I was living before I moved to this apartment, that means something very, very specific. It's just they're either being priced out of being able to live in Toronto, or there has been so much luxury development within that city that, because of all the speculation that's going on within the fucking city, it has made it such that people are being, I think it's the term would be gentrified, or being forced out, basically, because they can't fucking afford to live within that area. Yes, it is gentrification, because if there's a bunch of expensive housing, it is assumed that there's going to be a bunch of rich people that move into that housing, and as a result, all of these services and amenities, such as being able, grocery stores and clothing stores, what have you, it doesn't really matter. The more expensive sort of stores, like your Whole Foods or whatever, are going to move in because they're anticipating a bunch of rich people moving into there, and they're expecting to get business from, more rich people. And generally speaking, a lot of people will start to raise their prices as a result because of all that more expensive housing that's being built. Which is why, generally speaking, just forehead building a bunch of luxury condos and zero fucking social housing is kind of a fucking bad thing. Again, I'm not going to deny that a part of the problem is poor fucking zoning policy. 1,000%. But how these housing projects have been getting approved, and the only housing projects that were generally being approved were mostly luxury condos for the express purpose of real estate fucking speculation, should not be fucking ignored. And that is a problem with realtors having outsized control of a lot of municipal governments, mostly through campaign fucking donations. Like, I keep talking about Canada here because that's the that's the biggest thing that I'm familiar with. Not that long ago, we had the Greenbelt scandal, right? So Doug Ford, our premier of the of the province of Ontario, where I live, there's a segment of land known as the Greenbelt. Basically, environmental preservation, blah 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 blah, shit like that. And he promised that he would not allow any of that land to be developed for on housing. He made that promise. When one of his real estate buddies was attending his, I think, daughter's wedding. Yeah, because this was a scandal that he had, one of many scandals. One of his real estate buddies was attending a wedding for his fucking daughter, and he was able to basically make Doug Ford budge on the position that he promised that he would not allow for any of the Greenbelt to be up for housing development. And it was a big fucking scandal. All the local news was talking about it. Yada, yada, yada. And as a result of that developer essentially giving, I don't know, whatever favorable deal that Doug Ford was looking for at that moment. I don't know really what it is. It probably like some guarantees of a position on a board or some shit. Because, again, a lot of like Doug Ford's allies have been given that exact same fucking deal. There has been multiple fucking scandals about this. To ignore the outsized control and exercising of power, to use one of your fucking positions here and statements here, to ignore the outsized control and power that a lot of these real estate developers have to help sort of not guide, but essentially do what they will with fucking housing policy, is something that can't be fucking ignored. Unfortunately, this guy supports seemingly the fucking housing developers, so unfortunately, he's just going to only make fucking arguments that are that are beneficial for the real estate developers specifically.
The trade dichotomy to its logical conclusion, but we also have empirical understanding that this doesn't work from past happenings. For instance, when the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997 came out, it raised the exclusion rate of capital gains tax from $125K to $500K, and the result was that a lot of older people were more willing to move and sell their houses, and thus incentivizing the trade of housing more, and thus incentivizing more housing construction on the free market side of things, because they were no longer being punished for doing so. Now, of course, Katie Wilson's proposal, if you look into it a bit more, it shows that it excludes real estate. So this wouldn't happen, right? I mean, she's only planning to target stocks, bonds, and sales, and other financial assets other than housing exceeding $250,000. Woo, so housing is safe, right? Well, no, because here's the problem. There's tax incidents to also factor into this. It's not really possible to predict who exactly is going.
Why taxing the rich actually taxes everyone? Like, in what? I'm so curious as to what the fuck this means. Like, what do you mean it takes from fucking everyone? Huh? Yeah, dude. Capital gains tax, which apparently taxes everyone, when the only people who make any sort of like money, enough money rather, who ostensibly benefits from fucking capital gains tax tends to be the fucking richest amongst us. I wonder why they may might have a lot of fucking pushback specifically against people with who have fucking capital gains. And again, because housing is a commodity within the United States of America, and a lot of the concept being of generational wealth, which gets passed down from within the house, right? Because your house in America is not seen as a place for you to have a home. It is seen as, first and foremost, as a commodity, which is probably one of the biggest issues, specifically with housing within the fucking United States of America. The fact that basically housing is treated as a commodity first rather than a service or a good that is meant to benefit people is the biggest issue. So, personally, if a bunch of fucking older rich people, because I'm assuming, I'd have to fucking find the study that he's referring to. Does he have it in the description? I'm a little curious. Merch. Substack. Yes, he does actually have his sources. Lovely. What's the fucking source here? I'm curious, like, what part of the tax bracket would those senior people a part of? That's what I'm most curious about.
Work from past happenings. For instance, when the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997 came out.
Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997 came out. I'm curious. Is this effective capital gain? Ah, there we go. Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997. Let's see. Rollover rule. The Internal Revenue Code also featured preferential tax treatment for older home sellers before TRA 97. Beginning in 1964, homeowners aged 65 and over who had lived in their homes for at least 5 out of the 8 past years could claim a once-in-the-lifetime exclusion of up to $20,000 against taxable capital gains. Right, because it's meant to incentivize people to stay in that home so they get tax exemptions, so then they build generational fucking wealth within the house, which again incentivizes it to be a commodity rather than a service that is meant for people to be able to be housed, which is a big problem with housing in America. Maximum exclusion was raised to $35,000 in 1976. In 1978, the age requirement was lowered to 55. The residence requirement was changed from living in the home for at least 5 out of the previous 8 years to 3 out of the previous 5 years. And the maximum exemption amount was raised to $100,000. Newman's and Rachevsky, 1987, show the annual mobility rate of homeowners 55 to 64 years old increased after the 1978 reform. In 1981, the maximum exclusion amount was raised to $125,000. The age 55 rule remained unchanged until TRA 97. Okay. Signed into law August 5th, effective for sales. Eliminated the over rule. Second, eliminated the age 55 rule. Third, it allowed home sellers to exclude housing capital gains of $500,000 or $250,000 for single filers. Okay, and that's on exclude housing capital gains. I have an immediate question here. Is your average single family fucking home back during those times? Like, I'm talking about, like, I don't know, like a townhouse or a brown house, say in, like, fucking Boston. Is it really going to have this exact same fucking worth, this exact same fucking capital gains? Or is this going to be mostly for fucking McMansions? That's the immediate fucking question that I have. Because, again, the only people who benefit specifically from fucking capital gains tax are obviously people who have the ability to make a lot more fucking money, to actually be able to gain fucking capital. This doesn't really affect poor people for the most part. They don't really get affected all that much by capital fucking gains tax. The people who specifically complain about that shit, for the most part, is, oh, the fucking corporations and the rich. I wonder why those guys complain about fucking capital gains tax more and more so. Oh, because that's how they generally make most of their fucking money. Oh, who would have thought? If they owned and lived in their homes the last 2 to previous 5 years, no limit on how many times one can claim such exclusions in a lifetime. I'm just curious. What is the tax brackets for these people? I want to see the data. Percent owners. I just want to see how much, like, what kind of, like, tax brackets are they in? Graduate professional, bachelor's degree, percentage owners median household income in 1999. So, medium household income, and I'm assuming, because it also depends on also the city and town that it's in, because it varies from certain cities and certain towns, because you make you either need more or less money to be able to live in certain locations. Keep in mind about the 2 locations that we're talking about here specifically. We're talking about Seattle and New York. That's where there is some prime fucking real estate. And so far, most of the towns here, I'm going to operate under the assumption that these are Significantly fucking smaller towns, MentisWave. Well, that's a little interesting. Are any of these in the area around fucking New York or Seattle? I'm just curious. I don't know. Why don't we take a look at the biggest one? Weston. Weston what? Weston, America. Well, that's a city in Florida. This looks like an expensive fucking suburb. Well, that's Toronto. Weston, Connecticut? This only just says Weston. I'm curious, because it says the median income in the household income in Weston specifically is about 153K. But this looks like a tiny, like, not a tiny, but rather a suburb within either some part of Connecticut or fucking Florida. I'm just curious. Where is this? Fort Lauderdale? So this is in, so this is a suburb in fucking Florida. Isn't the housing prices within fucking Florida significantly different in comparison to that of fucking New York? And again, this is a study from 1999. A lot's fucking changed from 20 years, or like almost 30 years from this point, MentisWave. So you essentially bringing up this fucking paper to inherently fucking refute everything about the housing policies that both Katie Wilson and Zohran Mamdani are essentially talking about isn't exactly fucking accurate. Because this is shit that happened before the fucking housing crisis and collapse that happened, which America still has not fully recovered from the Great Recession of 2008. So bringing up this one random study here, I'm curious to see if there's been any follow-ups here. Oh, what's this? The first contains exhaustive records on single family house transactions from 1987 to 2008. Right, because a lot of people would have lost their homes from after 2008, and the data would have been significantly different. MentisWave, why are you not mentioning the Great Recession of 2008, which had a significant effect on a lot of housing policy? Well, not housing policy, but rather housing prices from the period after. If we want to be accurate with our fucking criticisms here, you'd probably want to take a study from after the Great Recession. Why is he not doing that? Well, that's a little fucking curious. It's almost as if him bringing this up is to make him sound like a fucking data male, when in reality, this fucking study, if I were to take a look through the rest of it, more than likely has no fucking correlation whatsoever in terms of the housing policy that both Katie Wilson and Zohran Mamdani are fucking pushing for. Because, again, anyone who lives in fucking New York or Seattle, one of the things they consistently talk about is how fucking expensive housing is in those fucking cities. Again, I'm going to bring up cities in Canada that are rather analogous. And the reason I bring them up is because they are very, very similar. Vancouver, similar to Seattle, and Toronto, very similar to fucking New York. They are often called the Seattle of Canada and the New York of Canada, like unironically. The reason why fucking housing is as expensive within those two cities, first and foremost, is because A, like you said before, and I agree with this point, I agree with them on this, zoning laws. Zoning laws are fucking terrible within both of those fucking cities, right? And they have preferential treatments for a lot of more luxury fucking housing that essentially ensures that the developers get their fucking cut of the money that they ostensibly are able to make a fucking profit off of that, right? And second off, because of the fact that there hasn't been much investment in a lot of social housing and a lot of cheaper fucking housing, it has made it such that a lot of the housing prices began to fucking bubble, because the only things that were being built were luxury fucking condos, because everyone was operating under the assumption that there was going to be foreign capital investment and that those condos were going to be used as speculative fucking assets, so then people can fucking bet with it on the market. Again, him bringing up this fucking study has overall no fucking relevance whatsoever to the current dynamics of fucking housing right now. Like I said before, most of the stuff that's been getting built, it's luxury fucking condos, especially after '08. I don't have exactly the statistics before '08, if there was a lot more affordable housing that was being built, and a lot more like single family homes, but throughout those cities, because we're talking about Seattle and also New York in these particular respects, comparing these first off to a bunch of fucking suburbs throughout the United States of America, not exactly an accurate sort of portrayal here, but whatever. Because if we're talking about New York and Seattle, we're going to be talking about the more inner parts, the downtown portions as well, not just the suburbs outside. Again, the 5 boroughs don't represent any of the suburbs outside of New York City, right? And I assume it's also the same case for Seattle, right? We're talking about the downtown portions, the more inner city parts. And housing there is incredibly fucking expensive in both of those cities because of what I said before. The only things that get built there are luxury fucking housing for foreign investment. So bringing up, like I said before, again, a bunch of suburbs here, as this study also does, in single family homes, is not exactly fucking accurate.
It raised the exclusion rate of capital gains tax from 125K to 500K, and the result was that a lot of older people were more willing to move and sell their houses, and thus incentivizing the trade of housing more, and thus incentivizing more housing construction on the free market side of things, because they were no longer being punished for doing so. Now, of course, Katie Wilson's proposal, if you look into it a bit more, it shows that it excludes real estate. So this wouldn't happen, right? I mean, she's only planning to target stocks, bonds, and sales and other financial assets other than housing exceeding $250,000. Woo, so housing is safe, right? Well, no, because here's the problem. There's tax incidents that also factor into this. It's not really possible to predict who exactly is going to pay the penalty for a tax.
I don't know how many times this has to be said, but again, the only people who have a lot of fucking holdings and stocks and fucking bonds and stuff are the rich. Most average citizens within a city, they're not known for being holders of fucking stock.
Tax. You end up with second and third order effects on the market. And so if someone doesn't want to sell a stock, then they also might not want to buy a house. That's how trade works. Assets move. And so that's a silly lie I see people saying, oh, she's excluding real estate transactions, therefore it's not going to affect real estate. Really? So people don't trade other assets that she is targeting for real estate? That just never happens? It's completely insane. If someone has an asset that is affected by it, then it will therefore be affected by the lock-in effect, and thus that asset will be less likely to be used to improve the housing market. And this idea that the government can somehow isolate sectors of the economy and decide how the taxations affect the entire economy has been pretty roundly debunked. And it's pretty obviously insane when you just think about it. I mean, imagine if...
Wait, it's been roundly debunked that the government can have a fucking outsized effect on housing price? Like, literally, I just explained how a bunch of the only sort of housing that's been getting generally approved in most of these fucking big ass cities have been mostly luxury fucking housing, which has had an outsized effect on the fucking goddamn housing markets in those cities. Again, this is nonsensical. Of course fucking government has a effect on the fucking housing market of a fucking goddamn city. Like, what? Okay, bro. Whatever. Nice meme.
If you wanted to buy a house, you've been wanting to buy a house for a very long time, and so you've been saving to buy a house by, say, investing in the Dow Jones or something for 10 years. Now imagine the government passing a law that taxes your gains from this stock investment of yours by about 50% or so. And then...
Yeah, dude, because, again, the average fucking normie is going to have millions of dollars in fucking stocks, dude. Okay, bro. Nice meme.
Imagine some socialist midwit coming up to you and telling you, with a straight face mind you, that the government taking away your gains from the stock market will have no effect on your choice of whether or not to buy a house, or where to buy a house, or what house to buy, because the capital gains tax doesn't target the housing market. I mean, just wow. Wow. These people are insane.
That's not the fucking arguments that generally people make about capital gains tax, you fucking troglodyte. You fucking dumbass. It is, again, about the fact that the main people, generally speaking, who want to dodge on fucking capital gains tax are, oh, the millionaires, the corporations, and the fucking billionaires. It's not about average people. Like, average people hardly get fucking taxed at all in terms of capital gains, because I don't know if you know this, MentisWave, but in order to be taxed by capital gains tax, one must have capital. Does the fucking goddamn middle class and the lower and the working class have fucking capital for that to be taxed, or capital gains tax gets basically triggered and then people have to fucking pay that shit? No, you fucking moron.
They actually belong in the loony bin. I mean, sure, excluding certain sectors of the economy might make it have less of a negative impact, but having a 15% negative impact instead of a 30% negative impact, I mean, that's still bad. You're still going to make the problem you're trying to fix worse by doing so. And so this just kind of further shows the problem that is fueling our economic illiteracy crisis here. People don't think, they don't use logic, they don't understand why.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, literally the first 30 seconds in your fucking video, you were immediately fucking lying about MSNBC making everyone into fucking sheep to make them want to be poor. Like, doing, like, some unironic, like, fash fucking AI fucking meme. Okay, bro.
Why these things work. And so thus they think that they can not harm the housing market by excluding the housing market, as if the housing market somehow exists in a void or alternative reality that somehow has nothing to do with the rest of the market. But what about Mamdani? Did he come up with anything better? Spoiler alert, no he didn't. Rent control has been tried so many times, and it has failed so many times. It helps a few people, the people who actually get to have their rents frozen, but it always has one of two problems, usually them both. One, it will discourage more economic development in terms of housing in the area, or two, it will discourage improving the building that is affected by the rent control. So hilariously enough,
What does he fucking mean? Which fucking study is this? Because he's just, like, these are very, very random, sort of spurious parts in a fucking sentence. Why don't we take a look?
the one, it will discourage.
Okay, effects of rent control expansion on tenants, landlords, and inequity. Evidence from San Francisco. Due to a 1994 law change. I'm already seeing some potential problems here. Again, another study from before the fucking Great Recession of 2008, which significantly changed the dynamics. So I'm already detecting some potential issues here, specifically. And the only time when rent control has worked multiple times and has been done multiple times within New York. I'm not so sure about Seattle, what they did during COVID, but yeah, Bill de Blasio did rent control, did a rent freeze during COVID. He did that. And the reason why that policy was having issues is because of the governor not giving him the necessary funding in order to be able to do that rent freeze for people who were suffering under COVID, MentisWave. But I'm curious, where's this fucking goddamn article? Where is the bit that he's referring to? Download the full text PDF. There we go. Let's see.
More economic development in terms of housing in
the lost rental housing supply likely drove up market rents in the long run, ultimately undermining the goals of the law. Okay. Long run. Is it this? Yeah, thus do. No, it says it's right here. Literally from within the fucking forward. Okay. 1994 law change. We exploit quasi-experimental variation of assignment of rent control in San Francisco. Again, San Francisco, and this is in 1994, so keep that in mind. Drove up the market run in the long run, ultimately undermining the goals of the law. Landlords of properties affected by the law change respond over the long term by substituting to other types of real estate, in particular by converting to condos and redeveloping buildings so as to exempt them from rent control, right? Because, of course, a lot of these things are going to have loopholes for people, for them to exploit, which is why you need to craft the policy to not have loopholes. Well, crazy, I know. Ultimately, in the long run, landlord substitution towards owner-occupied and newly constructed rental houses not only lowered the supply of rental housing in the city, but also shifted the city's housing policy towards less affordable types of housing that likely cater to the tastes of high-income individuals. So this is pointing out an issue with that specific law, and you're using this to generalize about rent control having problems overall. Okay, when there are loopholes in the fucking law. So far we're not being exactly inaccurate. This 15-point percentage reduction in the rental supply of small multifamily housing likely led to rent increases in the long run consistent with standard economic theory. In this sense, rent control operated as a transfer between the future renters of San Francisco, who would pay those higher rents due to lower supply, to the renters in living in San Francisco in 1994, benefit directly from lower rent. Furthermore, since many of the existing rental properties were converted to higher end. Oh, it's the thing that I've been consistently fucking talking about over and over again. How a lot of these, how a lot of fucking housing that's been generally being built, since even I guess since even now, before, the recession in 2008, was luxury fucking condos, because again, it's a privatized market and they are looking to get some of the richest bidders on those fucking houses. And also, again, this is in San Francisco and from about 30 years ago, and was still before the Great Recession in 2008, which significantly changed everything. So, again, not even in the correct fucking time frame. It's nonsense.
The area, or two, it will discourage improving the building that is affected by the rent control. So hilariously enough, it actually kind of has the same negative effects as government-run housing, because you're again forcing people to have that price with the threat of punishment. And so the net effect is that the people who get it for that price, they obviously benefit. But
yeah, but MentisWave, you're forgetting that generally speaking, social housing tends to be a lot less fucking expensive than stuff on the private market. A lot of fucking social housing, generally speaking, and as a result, it doesn't get maintained as well. Might be because of the fact that they don't get the funding necessary to have the maintenance necessary for that social housing. But I digress. That is a problem with the state fucking bureaucracy, not a problem with the policy in of itself. That's a completely fucking different story. Because of a lot of generally bribery and chicanery from either certain advocates, not advocates, but people within places of power who want to destroy, well, affordable fucking housing policy. But again, I digress. Completely fucking different story, right? That is still a fucking factor to play in this. Your own fucking goddamn bullshit really refutes within the studies that you say refutes a bunch of your own fucking bullshit. Oh, a bunch of landlords and developers, instead of pursuing and anything in line with the rent control policy, are going to try to find loopholes, which is why you craft the policy to not have any of the loopholes. It literally says within your own fucking article, Bubby. It's fucking nonsensical, dude.
But the rest of the market suffers. This has been tried over and over and over again, and Mamdani, from what I could look up, is not proposing any kind of significant, amazingly different way to do it. Or how about free public transit? Now, that's where the problem of subsidizing the consumer while punishing the producer really starts to take effect. Because the issue with making something quote-unquote free is that it doesn't actually resolve the scarcity of that thing. It does not magically increase capacity or increase the supply of it, and so with the price...
MentisWave is already lying here, because Mamdani, as a state assemblyman, already made several bus routes within New York, in the area that he was representing, free, and it resulted in a increase in ridership, a significant amount of less assaults on bus drivers, and also allowed what's the other thing that he typically says about this, and also made it such that the buses were more available for people, because they could run more buses because of the fact that they're saving a bunch of fucking goddamn money because it's being subsidized by the government. Go crazy, I know.
Price factor signal removed, there's no real reason to ration it. People start to overconsume it. And so demand for it gets really high, leading to either A, overcrowded, crappy buses, often filled with a lot of people who haven't really thought out their transit options very well. And of course,
like I said before, you can just put more buses on that exact same route to compensate for volume. And as a result of there being more buses on that route, and from, like, what I understand, as a result of, you know, putting on more of those fucking buses, because more people are going to be riding that exact same fucking bus, it obviously improves the sort of throughput. I'm not sure if that's the correct term. It basically makes it such that a bunch more people are going to fucking ride on the bus as a result of it being fucking free. Where was I going with this point exactly? I don't remember exactly what I was saying here. But yeah, like... yes, I remember what I was going to say now. This in tandem with the congestion pricing, making it such that there is less traffic on the road as well, with the congestion pricing, making it that there's less cars, those buses are going to be able to go faster, get to their destinations more quickly, and more people are going to be inclined to want to ride on the fucking bus as a result. Like, it's kind of duh.
Of course, you end up with jank bus schedules because a lot of times they won't be able to get new buses in time since they don't always know exactly how much they need, since they've, again, taken away the price signal by making it quote-unquote free. And so then instead, they just punish the productive. Because of course, they have to pay for it somehow, and usually the standard scam here is to just tax the rich, which I've already done an entire video on why taxing the rich actually just ends up taxing everybody, and that's just the tax incidence I meant.
Again, incredibly fucking stupid. Yeah, dude, going after the rich people's fucking capital gains taxes literally everybody. It's stupid. It's nonsensical. I don't have like an idea for as to what probable stupid idiotic arguments that guy probably makes in that video. I don't know. If I were to take a guess, I'm just gonna take a random fucking like shot in the dark here. Okay. Probably because of people who get taxed more, they're going to take their assets and leave. Good luck doing that in New York, the financial capital of the world. Sure. Yeah, 1000%. A lot of businesses are definitely going to do that as a result. Totally MentisWave. And, because every single time, by the way, when all these motherfuckers say there's going to be like a mass exodus of people fleeing certain places because of the increase in fucking taxes, and it almost never fucking happens. Literally, Bill Ackman, who was threatening to leave New York City after Mamdani won, he literally bent the fucking knee. So again, huff that fucking copium there, buddy. But to say that generally speaking, everyone's just going to like pack up their bags and sort of like forehead leave because of taxes being increased within a city is fucking stupid. There's just like almost no evidence to say that has been the case. Maybe there might be some evidence. I guess it depends on the system, depends on the city, it depends on the fucking tax base. It's not as simple as when all these motherfuckers just say, dude, everyone like just doesn't heckin' Reno want to get tax-a-renoed, so they just like pack up their bags and just like randomly leave, dude. It's not like, it's not a forehead sort of a thing. There's a lot more complicated reasonings for as to why. I mean, people right now are already leaving the city, MentisWave, and it's because the city is unaffordable. I wonder why that might be the case, MentisWave, why there's a lot more people that are currently leaving New York City right now in comparison to that of all the rich that are still staying around. I'm curious, why are there so many people that are poor right now constantly leaving the fucking city? Oh, it's because they can't afford to fucking live there, buddy. It's just incredibly stupid, dude.
Mentioned earlier, but interesting enough, again, going back to that cheat code I gave you earlier, if you know that people don't like being punished, which I mean, congratulations, if you understand that, you are a basically rational human being. No, really, you'd be surprised at how many people don't get that one. Anyway, people will often do things to avoid the punishment, or kind of shift things around, or change their incentives, or in other words, they'll want to compensate for the loss caused by the punishment. And so this often leads to them being less willing to part with other assets, thus leading to increased prices and reduced trade.
And like I said before, you craft policy to make sure that those loopholes are just not there, right? That's what you do.
In other words, it negatively affects the whole economy. So it's not actually free. The whole city pays for it. Even if you claim that you're only going to tax the billionaires to pay for it. Well, no, that problem is always eventually going to spread into trade, into other sectors of the economy, and thus it won't just affect the billionaires. But since this isn't immediately obvious, it doesn't really fix the problem. There's no price signal behind something that's quote-unquote free. And so people just keep overusing it, and bureaucracy causes it to become more and more inefficient, and the quality of the public transit thus takes a nosedive. Which then, hilariously enough, people will actually start paying to get back into their own.
Okay, you know what? Here's another example. I'm going to do another anecdote here. I used to live in a particular part of Ottawa with a rather infamous bus known as the 111. And for any of my fucking goddamn Ottawa residents, you'll know exactly what I mean when I say the fucking 111. The 111 has one of the most jank, ridiculous schedules on the fucking goddamn planet. And you want to know why that was the case? Because the mayor of Ottawa, I forget the name, what his name is. It's not overall relevant. But the mayor of Ottawa took a lot of funding away from public transit. Well, that's a little strange. I thought that like if you give, like MentisWave is saying that if you tax people to give more funding to public transit, that actually has a downstream effect and makes it worse for everyone. Well, that's a little strange. Because there used to be 2 lines that went into that area because it's a big student area. There's a lot of people that live there. I should know because I used to live in that fucking area. And it made it such that the buses were incredibly fucking overcrowded and that they often that would oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, some of the time there would just not be enough room for people to be able to go on during like peak hours. So for like people coming back from school and work and whatnot, because it would go through multiple residential areas, and it would also go through a bunch of like highly dense populated areas within certain outskirts parts of Ottawa. And there used to be 2 buses that went along that line. The reason why there was only 1 bus that goes along that line is because of the fact that there was a funding cut. Now, I've been back to Ottawa recently. They restored the line before, and I took the 111 to see what it's like. Significantly better. The timing of it, the schedule of it, and I also talked with my ex-roommate, and he's just like, oh yeah, they added the other line, and it's way, way better. Because it goes through the other part of the suburb, which the 111 was also expected to serve. Hey, MentisWave, it turns out if you give funding, appropriate funding, and make sure that there aren't any problems or loopholes in a lot of local fucking policy, it turns out when the state runs a bunch of things, it tends to work out pretty fucking well.
Own cars and avoiding the public transit because they don't want to deal with the crappy quality caused by making it free. And then lastly, there's government.
Stupid. It's nonsensical. Again, congestion pricing. You want to take your fucking car in New York? Yeah, dude. People definitely want to take their fucking car in New York, one of the most congested fucking cities on the fucking goddamn planet. And like I said before, congestion pricing already fucking exists.
Government-run grocery stores. And spoiler alert, no, there is no new, magical, newly figured out socialist way to make these finally work. Yes, they've been tried in the past, and they have failed. Now, if you don't know, a government-run grocery store, they're often created in places that they deem a food desert because a private grocer will shut down, which, spoiler alert, there's usually a reason they do that. And these grocery stores will, of course, often have...
Oh, what's the reason for that, MentisWave? Oh, it's because those fucking private corporations can't afford to serve the communities in those particularly generally rural areas. I wonder why they might do that. Oh, it's because having the profit motive for things that have inelastic demand might actually be kind of a bad thing.
Have heavily discounted prices, subsidized, of course, by the taxpayer. But the big issue with them is that in terms of socialist programs, if you want to give people free food, or at least heavily discounted food, government grocery stores are the dumbest way to do it. It's actually significantly worse than SNAP program. Because the SNAP program, yes, it's...
Okay, already the basis of the operation for this is incredibly fucking off here. First off, the proposal that Zohran Mamdani is doing for government-run grocery stores, quote-unquote, it's a pilot program. He is doing it to 5 different grocery stores throughout New York to see what happens. That is it. He's just doing a study. That is the government-run grocery stores. That's not even the biggest thing on his fucking policy agenda. What, it's, freeze the rent, free buses, and what's the other fucking thing? Freeze the rent, free buses. I forget the third thing. But the fucking government-run grocery store, that's like, again, it's just a pilot program. It's an experiment to see like what would happen if we had government-run grocery stores that were subsidized by taxes that Mamdani's going to raise with the corporate tax raise that he's going to make of about 4%. Basically making it such that it is the same as the neighboring state of New Jersey, but, you know, I digress. It's just a test to see what happens. It's not, like, Mamdani's not going to get into office and then all of a sudden all the grocery stores are going to be fucking free. It's non-fucking-sensical. Like, that's not what's happening. You still have to buy food within those grocery stores. That's generally how it works. You still buy the food from there. It's just that it gets subsidized and doesn't have to operate with a profit in mind in order to be able to sell food to people. Like, you still buy the food from there. It's fucking stupid.
Inefficient because it's giving people free food, but at least they have to buy it from a private grocer, and thus the funds at least go back into the economy. And so while there are problems with it, it's not the worst it can be. And yet government grocery stores come in and try to solve a problem by just not understanding the problem, and thus thinking that the problem with the government is that there isn't enough government. Because another thing with government programs, because they're always fundamentally rooted in power in some way, even when it's a grocery.
Okay, are you going to describe what's the problem with food deserts? Because the problem with food deserts should be pretty fucking obvious. There should not be a profit motive incentive for something that has a inelastic fucking demand. being able to go out and buy food, so you're able to have, well, live as a fucking human being. And the fact that there are a bunch of rural communities out in the fucking middle of buttfuck nowhere that don't have grocery stores because they need profit in order to be able to sustain themselves might be a bit of a problem, MentisWave. People should not have to travel to the next town or city over in order to be able to buy groceries, MentisWave. They should not have to commute for about an hour or two to have to do that, MentisWave.
Grocery store and there is some kind of voluntary exchange at the checkout stand, it's still subject to the bureaucratic rule of three. And so, of course, the result is that the store is always going to be run poorly. And so these grocery stores always end up losing money. I think the silliest example was
literally, that makes no fucking sense. Oh, there's like a free democratic exchange, so therefore it's just not, instead of the money going back into the heckin' economy, bros, it's totally going to just sit there and rot and make it such that it doesn't do anything, bros. Like, okay, MentisWave. I know this might be a difficult concept for you to understand, but a bunch of money that's being hoarded by a bunch of corporations and rich people is already sitting around in bank accounts, just collecting dust and not doing anything. If you are in a government-run grocery store, you go in, you exchange money for goods, and then you give the money to the fucking cashier, and then that cashier takes the money that they made, and then they spend it elsewhere. That's how velocity of money works. I thought you were a heckin' based economics guy. I thought we had a basic understanding of economics in this channel. Like, that's how it fucking works. Capitalism, how it is ideally supposed to function, is with the free flow of money. Money is constantly circulating within the system. One of the biggest problems right now is that I would say the vast majority of wealth and money that exists within the United States of America is stagnant. It is tied up in just assets or the stock market and is just sitting around doing fucking nothing, which is a fucking problem, which is why, the US has economically stagnated the way it has.
Erie Market from Erie, Kansas in the past. This is one where the private owner of the store retired, and so the city bought it from him. They ran it poorly because it consistently lost money, and so they ended up selling it back to the private sector. And another issue with these kind of grocery stores is that sometimes...
What do you mean they ran it poorly? What is this fucking article? I'm curious. Let's see if I can fucking find it. Here we go. Erie Market closing again. Residents concerned for future. There's some random sound coming out of nowhere. The Erie Market in Erie, Kansas is expected to close by the end of August when River Grocery LLC's one-year lease expires. The city-owned store has struggled with operations since the city purchased it in 2020, with shelves becoming increasingly bare over recent months. MentisWave, what happened during 2020? Oh, it was COVID. Yeah, it was COVID, but okay. Becoming increasingly bare over the recent months. Residents face at least a 15 to 20 minute drive to the nearest grocery store, creating concerns about access to fresh and affordable food. Yeah, this is not, I don't think this is exactly a great example, because the other one that I often refer to is a place within Florida, and that was also a state-owned grocery store that also ended up having to close its doors. Why? Because of COVID. COVID forced tons of fucking small businesses and tons of smaller fucking grocery stores and restaurants to be closed because there was a plague going around the fucking country, and as a result of that plague, people were forced to stay inside the house and were having to order through Amazon instead, or order through a bunch of fucking apps instead, which had a adverse effect on people going into their local fucking markets. Nice fucking meme, dude.
Times the problem is just very high crime and high theft, and so that's why the store leaves. And the unfortunate reality is that crime and theft...
COVID, man. It's because of COVID. I wonder why there was a lot of fucking crime that was generally happening as a result of fucking COVID. Oh, because it was a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, it caused huge economic upheaval, and a bunch of people who were already in poverty were forced to have to do drastic things in order to be able to survive, Mentis, so they had to turn to fucking crime. It's pretty fucking simple here.
Theft isn't necessarily always caused by socioeconomic factors. There's a lot of other factors at play. And so they bring in the government-run grocery store, but they don't really think to address why the crime is happening. Like, for example, one government...
Bro, what fucking relation does this fucking have to government-run fucking grocery stores? The stabbing of the fucking Ukrainian refugee. That's a byproduct of the problems of the criminal justice system that exists within the United States of America. Because like I said before, this guy, I believe, who was allowed out... What was it? It was a lot of fucking times. He was not forced to have to fucking pay bail and stuff like that. And he was let back out on the streets. And he still was doing crimes. Now, I think there should be particular thresholds. Like, yeah, if a dude just keeps doing the crime over and over and over and over and over again, yeah, he should eventually just be forced to stay behind bars probably for a bit longer and not just be allowed to go back on the fucking streets. I'm not exactly certain as to why. I'm really bad with this fucking name. I just forget the fucking name. Why he was allowed to go out without fucking paying bail or posting bail or anything. Probably because of cashless bail, yada, yada, yada. The idea that you have to put up the money in order to be able to pay for your fucking bail every single time has problems inherently, but that's a completely fucking different story. The fact that this guy was a constant fucking repeat offender, at some point it's just like, okay, either you have to go to like some form of like therapy, or you have to be put behind the fucking slammer and be forced to be put into some kind of fucking therapy. Because why do you keep doing the same shit again over and over and over? There's a problem here that needs to be fucking addressed. But again, are people like MentisWave going to do anything about that problem? No.
Run grocery store in Kansas called Sunfresh. People were investing millions into this thing. The reason it had to come up was because there was a food desert created by grocery stores leaving due to theft.
Wait, again, what? Oh, this is more recent. Okay, so 2025. Due to theft? I'm not sure what exactly Kansas's policy exactly is with minimum post to bail or some shit. Because right, like for example, like in California, right, if you steal $950 worth of stuff, like it's not that the police aren't going to do anything about this. You're not going to get fucking arrested, but you're still going to have like something on your fucking criminal record. It's something like that. I have to ask Boy Meets Mini exactly how that fucking policy works. There's problems with the policy. I don't disagree with that. But is it because of fucking theft? I'm curious. Why don't we take a look at the sources? Trouble at Kansas City grocery stores closes by nearly $18 million in city investments. Sunfresh 31st Street and Prospect Avenue is one of the only grocery stores for miles. It has been struggling to fill shelves recently despite 10 years of taxpayer money to renovate it and keep it in business. Again, a big problem that contributes to this problem was COVID, but I digress. Despite almost $18 million over the past 10 years, Sunfresh store in Linwood Shopping Center. Linwood Shopping Center. So this isn't a mall? Okay. Generally speaking, a lot less foot traffic has been going to malls. That might also contribute to this as well. Unforeseen circumstances beyond our control. We are no longer at this able to serve the community. Only grocery store within a mile. I'm about to cry. This is real life. Has been struggling for the past year. Neighbors, store owners, and nonprofit development company operated the store blamed crime and fucking homelessness. Okay? They're blaming crime and homelessness. Neighbors, store employees, and nonprofit development company. The nonprofit development company. Okay? Store couldn't survive through Kansas City Council pumped $750,000 to operation. You don't go for having 14,000 customers when we acquired the store down to now about 2,000. Community Builders of Kansas City President. There was security at the shopping center as a smattering of shoppers came to the Sunfresh stores. Oh, there's security there. Okay. Why didn't that fucking deter crime? Oh, I wonder why. After a high-profile visit at the center, Kansas City Police Chief Stacy promised more patrols. the department said Tuesday it delivered. KCPD works with city officials, had increased patrols in the area to include having officers assigned specifically to the 31st and Prospect Corridor for 24/7 police presence. Okay. So they had police presence there, but there was still apparently crime and homelessness. But there's police presence there, but that would mean that, wouldn't that then exactly mean that crime should be going down, but homelessness should also fucking go down within that fucking area because of the police going in to smack in a bunch of fucking skulls of people? Shows to you how, in reality, a lot of those policies tend to be incredibly ineffective, but I digress. Fixed up the building. Lucas said the building is sound ready for a new tenant. Always been some areas of exploration. Community Builders of Kansas City CEO Emmett Pearson said his organization worked tirelessly to provide food to the urban core. Community builders have been vocal for years about our concerns and fears regarding their increasingly insurmountable challenges of the KC Sunfresh Midtown location, he said in a statement. Oh, that's it? So the nonprofit, and also not just the nonprofit, but also neighbors, the store owners, and a bunch of other people said that it was because of crime and fucking homelessness, or store employees rather said it was because of fucking crime and homelessness. I'm just curious, what exactly was the fucking margins here? They even had police to try to crack down on this, and it clearly did fucking nothing. It shows to you exactly how much an increase in terms of funding of policing and stuff like this ultimately doesn't really do anything to deter a lot of that stuff, but in reality it's a increase in betterment of people's material conditions is the actual sort of way to fix that fucking problem. But I digress. I'm just curious, because this doesn't really specify any of the reasonings for as to why this place ran out of fucking funding and why the city decided to not give any more funding. I think it might be because of the fact that you don't go from having 14,000 customers when we acquired the store down to now about 2,000 because of management. So it seems like it's not because of crime and homelessness, but because of a problem with management. I'm getting fucking conflicting sort of arguments here, and I'm not exactly certain which one it is. So to say that it's a general problem with government-run grocery stores as a result of fucking crime and homelessness, I don't think that's an exactly accurate fucking claim here.
People were investing millions into this thing. The reason it had to come up was because there was a food desert created by grocery stores leaving due to theft. And so then this government-run grocery store comes in and also gets destroyed by theft. Absolutely brilliant. Class act. Except this time they also stole from the taxpayer as well. And Mamdani, he's just proposing more of this in New York City. It's not gonna get better, and it's also just kind of completely unnecessary.
I don't know how many times this has to be said again. It's just a fucking pilot. It's a pilot program. It's a pilot program.
The private sector already does a good job of running grocery stores. Every time the government tries it, they ruin.
Oh, really? And you keep... Hey, MentisWave. Why are the fucking food deserts coming up to begin with? Oh, it's because of the fucking the profit motive and a private sector running the fucking grocery stores. So clearly they're not doing as good of a job as you may think.
Ruin it because, again, the price indicators aren't there anymore, and so it's just a big waste of time. And when you look behind the scenes, what you're really seeing is it's all just the same old equity propaganda. We need these stores because there's food access equity. And what these socialists are doing is they're trying to fix that problem without understanding the problem. And what's weird is that plenty of people have called out Mamdani and Wilson over how these policies aren't really going to work, which interestingly enough brings me to the second major lie, which I guess the best way to call it is the anti-economics conspiracy theory. Because of course economists, even mainstream economists, have come out against Mamdani's policies and explained why Wilson isn't really doing anything new. It's not going to work. It didn't work before. They haven't changed anything. There is no neo-socialism. And yet these words fall on deaf ears. And the reason for it, as I found out, is that there's this really weird distrust of economics that's kind of been spreading throughout the populace, and it's based on some really dumb fallacies. That may sound a bit weird, so let me give you an example to show you what I'm talking about. This X-post right here that I replied to. Why Mamdani would be bad for struggling young New Yorkers, explained by a 67-year-old billionaire who lives in $22 million estate in Dallas. And of course, the problem is the argument he was giving was just basic economics. So yes, this guy is unironically implying that he's wrong.
Wait, what's the fucking tweet there? I'm curious. Spending economics is rich, therefore he is wrong. Everybody required to think for even the sound. What's the fucking take? Oh, it's from fucking Andrew Cuomo. Wait, but Andrew Cuomo is an out-of-touch fucking weirdo. He constantly would not campaign with the community, never listen to any of their fucking concerns, and would consistently sort of talk about going to the fucking Hamptons and appeal to people in order to get fucking money for his campaign there. Yeah. And very often would come out of into New York City in a suburban from his fucking McMansion outside the bounds of the city. So, yeah? Yeah, it makes it look like he doesn't understand the problems of the fucking community. That's how optics works, MentisWave.
Struggling young New Yorkers, explained by a 67-year-old billionaire who lives in $22 million estate in Dallas. And of course, the problem is the argument he was giving was just basic economics. So yes, this guy is unironically implying that he's wrong simply because he's rich. And this actually ties into kind of
But that was Andrew. That was a response to fucking Andrew. Is Andrew Cuomo a fucking economist now? I thought he was a lawyer. Okay, dude. Nice meme.
a greater conspiracy theory that the reason most economists, or people who study the economy logically in some way or form or another, generally reach the conclusion that the free market is a good thing. A lot of socialists especially seem to think that this is some kind of plot or gaslighting tactic, or that economists are all being paid off by the rich to essentially preach free market economics. And as much as I hate it to label something a conspiracy theory, because of course calling something a conspiracy theory doesn't automatically make it wrong, in this case it makes sense because socialists seem to believe this despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. For example, the Mises Institute, which is probably the economists who have the greatest level of free market approach to things, or the Austrian school, they actually...
I wonder why you soy out for the fucking Mycenaean school. Oh, yeah, because they have a bunch of demented interpretations of fucking economics because of the fact that they themselves were also benefiting that of the fucking rich. Like, they believed in fucking laissez-faire, free economic fucking capitalism. It's not like the Mises Institute wasn't getting fucking paid by rich people. No, they just fucking believed in, what if we just did more fucking free market capitalism after the collapse of it during the 1930s. It's fucking silly.
Have a lot less funding to them than most other schools of economic thought. It just kind of immediately puts a wrench in the idea that we're all being paid off somehow or have some reason to support the free market that is a bit more nefarious. And another problem with the reasoning is you'll notice that a lot of times there are rich people who support socialism, and the rich who do support socialism are often those who got rich through purely luck, like being handpicked as a Hollywood manufactured star or something, or just inherited their wealth. Those are the ones that are most likely...
What, are you fucking talking about Hassan there or something? Like, okay.
To be socialists and have authoritarian ideas on the economy. It's generally the self-made rich people, the ones who actually did well, who will explain economics to you and explain why the free market is good. Whereas if this conspiracy was true, I would honestly expect the opposite of this. But of course, the biggest problem just comes back to logic. A lot of economics really just confirms what the Austrian school already logically figured out is true. For instance, going back to the cheat code I mentioned earlier, understanding that trade is either voluntary or not will help you reach a lot of those economic concepts simply by yourself, simply by thinking about it and reaching the logical conclusions by yourself. And so really this is...
Obviously, like, we have to operate on, like, ridiculously sort of, like, reductive sort of positions on how fucking economics works. Obviously, that is a part of how economics works, but it's a little bit more fucking complicated than that. It's not just as simple as it's a free fucking exchange between two parties, or it's economic fucking coercion via, like, a colonialism or whatnot. It's a little bit more fucking complicated nowadays.
This is the equivalent of someone saying that 2 plus 2 equals 5, and the only reason that we're always saying that 2 plus 2 equals 4...
Bro, you support the fucking Republican Party, who literally preaches that 2 plus 2 equals fucking 5. You support fucking conservative economic principles. Mises also believed in a lot of idiotic conservative economic principles, like trickle-down fucking economics. So, okay, bro. That's literal 2 plus 2 equals 5 economics. Alright, bro. Nice meme.
It's because elite mathematicians are engaged in a mass gaslighting conspiracy to hide the truth from the people about how 2 plus 2 equals 5. Which I guess, in a way, that kind of makes sense if you put yourself in the shoes of someone who's just completely mathematically incapable. If you truly believed, with all of your heart, that 2 plus 2 really does equal 5, and you don't really have any other good argument as for why, but you still truly, fully believe it, and you refuse to let go of that belief, then yes, you...
I don't know, MentisWave. Most of the fucking arguments that you have been laying out have been not really fucking substantiated all that much, and I've taken a look at some of the articles that you're fucking referring to. Either there's some details missing, or they are so far out from the current dynamics at fucking play right now that they don't really necessarily apply. And they're not even in the exact same fucking cities or fucking towns. It's nonsense.
You are kind of forced to say that all mathematicians and all the school textbooks on math, and pretty much everything related to computers, because computers wouldn't work if 2 plus 2 equals 5, you have to believe that it's all part of some huge mass conspiracy. But I think the most interesting thing about it is that it's kind of, in a way, projection. You see, socialists...
Hold on, you want to talk about fucking mass conspiracies?
We are poor.
What's
the
this?
solution is higher taxes.
Hey, Internet.
Wait. We want to talk about fucking conspiracy theory? Conspiracy posting? You ain't got no fucking place to talk about fucking conspiracy posting. Yeah, dude, nice fucking AI image here. Like, MSNPC, MSNBC, not even fucking consistent here. Nice fucking meme, bro. Yeah, okay, dude.
a projection. You see, socialists generally tend to believe in the labor theory of value, and so thus they believe that the rich are getting rich by exploiting the workers, by extracting their surplus labor value and stealing it from them. And so based on this belief, they're assuming that all rich people are evil, and that's because all rich people are evil, specifically rich business owners who are stealing the surplus labor value. They are thus asserting that they also must be evil enough to spread this massive lie about the free market being good. And that is actually psychological projection, because they're judging people's motives based on what they believe, rather than what the person they're judging likely believes. I've seen this kind of bad reasoning in theology debate.
Wait, what? Also, a fucking libertarian that has a love of theology. Okay, sure, dude. Look, what the fuck are you talking about? That is how it works. Okay, so if a fucking surplus of labor is not the reason for as to why capitalists make a lot of fucking goddamn money, how exactly, if it's not the case that it is not a surplus amount of labor that is being taken, then why do fucking companies and corporations refuse to increase fucking wages consistently and do everything possible to keep wages as low as possible for their employees as much as they can? Why is that? Why don't they why do they fucking do that? What is it, because like I'm supposed to agree with a random person's judgment? It's just like, well, that's what I feel like is supposed to be paid for a position like that. Well, who gets to make that fucking judgment then exactly, MentisWave? Who makes that judgment exactly? Someone who has the who inherently wants to make as much fucking profit as possible off of your fucking labor? That I should trust them and believe them when they say that, oh, I think you're inherently already making enough for this fucking sort of work on this, I don't know, like factory, let's say, for example. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Why must the capitalist, who does no work, who does none of the fucking labor, be the one who gets to predetermine that? It's nonsense.
Debates before. For instance, I saw a Christian apologist who I guess believed that he was talking to an atheist use this typical argument, which, by the way, this is a bad argument. If you're a Christian, don't use this argument. If you ever get into theology or apologetics, do not use this argument. It's very bad. Anyway, he said that, oh, the only reason you don't believe in God is because you must hate God. And the problem is he was actually debating a Muslim, and I just didn't realize that. And so the Muslim replied, well, actually, I think you're the one who hates Allah because you reject Muhammad's word. And of course, they were both wrong, especially since technically Yahweh and Allah are the same person, but whatever. The core problem of the reasoning is that the reason someone doesn't believe in a certain thing isn't because they hate that certain thing. It's because they just don't believe in it. They haven't seen enough evidence to believe in it. And so the reason a Christian isn't a Muslim isn't because they hate God, it's because they just don't believe that the Quran is the word of God. For whatever multitude of reasons led them to conclude that the Bible was a better source of truth. And likewise, the reason a Muslim is not a Christian isn't because they hate God, it's because for them the opposite is true. They have seen various reasons and whatever that have led them to believe that the Quran is true. And of course, if it was an atheist, the reason an atheist doesn't believe in God isn't because they hate God. I mean, you can't really hate something you don't believe in, it's very ridiculous anyways. It's just because they haven't seen proof that God exists. They don't think there's enough evidence to believe it, for whatever reason. But the point is, the fallacy here is just projection. They're taking what they believe and projecting it on other people, and taking what motives they would have for believing something and projecting it onto their opponent. So for instance,
that's really fucking funny coming from a dude who believes in Austrian fucking economics, who wants to project like, dude, if we just like funnel more and more resources to the fucking rich, therefore it's going to be a great economic productivity for everyone. Despite the fact that we are currently in the fucking Trump administration, more and more money is currently trying to be funneled to the fucking rich. Oh, and it's producing terrible fucking economic outcomes. Whoops.
A Christian might tell himself, oh, I believe that the Bible is the word of God, and so to them, if they were to stop following the Bible, they believe that the reason they would do that is simply because they wanted to sin or they hated God or something like that, because that's what they believe. And when it comes to understanding other people's beliefs and other people's motives, a lot of people seem to forget that that's actually really terrible reasoning. It's extremely solipsistic. And that's pretty much what socialists are doing in this one. They're just projecting their idea that rich people are lay evil, exploiting lay workers who are lay innocent victims, and therefore because they...
Buddy, we could make the exact same argument for probably like the shit that you believe in. What makes you believe that rich people are inherently better than everyone else? What, because they have a bunch of money? And you want to talk about how socialists are being fucking solipsistic. Buddy, Uno fucking reverse card. We can flip that argument right on top of you. What makes you believe that rich people are inherently fucking better? Right? Why is that? If you only believe that socialists say the things that they do because of the fact that they think that rich people are evil, okay, what makes them inherently good? Why don't you, are you going to fucking argue for the affirmative on that one? I don't think so.
They are lay evil, and the only reason, at least in the socialist minds, they would do that is because they are lay bad. Well then, they must also be bad enough to engage in this mass gaslighting conspiracy, and all rich people are just lying to you about the economy, so that they can keep exploiting workers and extracting their surplus labor value. And of course, it's nonsense. It's very dumb. And this kind of then immediately jumps into the...
Again, like, that's not That's not the reason why. Again, capitalists extract the surplus labor that workers and laborers put into the creation of their product because that's the current economic system that we exist under. The capitalists, the bourgeois, the rich, they don't do any of that fucking labor. They are the people who have the ownership over the fucking means of production, right? They own the machines, they own the factories, they are the ones who purchase the raw materials for the laborer to work on and whatnot. And then they are the ones who come up with some, I don't know, predetermined amount of value to pay to that fucking goddamn laborer. What socialists are challenging there is the idea of, like, why does it have to be some random dude who's on top of this, well, hierarchy, who has to be the main guy who can predetermine how much value someone should be given to that fucking laborer for their fucking work. Because there's another part of the labor theory of value that a lot of these dipshits constantly forget. The concept of to each according to their ability, to each according to their need. People forget about this constantly because socialism already has a solution for this problem. If you're going to be a bourgeois sort of capitalist that sits around and does nothing, well, clearly that means you don't really need much, not funding. I was going to say funding. That you do not need to be paid for that fucking a sort of like work that you're not accomplishing. It means that you do not need any of the resources necessary in order to be able to participate, because you already have your needs met, so therefore you're all fucking good. You're all fucking good. But again, this guy's just like, well, socialists believe that rich people are just inherently bad because of labor theory of fucking value. Again, I have to ask you this question, MentisWave. Why does it have to be some random fucking rich dude who you're probably never going to fucking see in your life if you're just a random factory worker who has to be the guy who determines how much you get paid to do a particular job? Why does it have to be that random fucking dude? Why can't you be the one who determines that? Why can't people who gather together as a collective be the ones who can fucking determine that and determine other fucking labor rights and stuff like that? Why does it have to be that one fucking dude? What did he do in order to fucking earn that position? What did he do? Oh, that's right. Just have a bunch more money than everyone else.
The third lie, which is, I guess we'll call it the regulation lie. A lot of times, market authoritarians who want the government to control something, they will always point to rising costs that are negatively impacting citizens and the poor, and therefore the government needs to jump in and help. And this, of course, comes with it packed with a very simple lie, which is this idea that regulation reduces the prices. And the problem with it is it's usually only true in the short run, if it is ever true. In the long run, we actually have pretty solid data showing that this is just not the case. In fact, this one,
Literally the stuff with insulin prices would immediately fucking disagree with you, MentisWave. People used to have to pay hundreds upon hundreds of dollars for a bottle of fucking insulin. Regulation happened through the, I believe it was the Inflation Reduction Act that made it such that Medicare can now negotiate for insulin prices, and it went from, well, depending on who the on the area, who is the fucking insurer, blah 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 blah, but it went down from hundreds of dollars of a bottle to being capped to about $35 a fucking bottle. Well, that's a pretty clear instance of regulation immediately having an effect on prices.
I'm not really going to spend much time on because it's pretty easy to refute if you just look at this graph right here. Price changes of consumer goods and services. And we see hospital services at the top, gotten over 200% more expensive in the last 20 years or so. The next is college, tuition, and college.
Wow, I immediately fucking refuted this instantaneously. Guess what got canceled for college tuitions and fees? Why it went up significantly? Oh, it got fucking cut out because of a lot of the subsidies that Ronald Reagan did. He got rid of the subsidies for that. That made college inexpensive. Oh, that's what happened. And same with like a lot of this other shit. College textbooks, medical care services. I literally just immediately fucking said insulin is a immediate disprover of this. It went down fucking significantly. It's fucking stupid, man. It's almost as if there's a lot of corporations and lobbyists and people amongst the rich who lobby the government to give them favorable policies so they can make as much money as possible, MentisWave.
College textbooks, medical care, childcare, food and beverage and housing. And then things that haven't changed much are new cars, household furnishings, clothing, and then things that have gotten for the most part cheaper, things like software, toys, cell phone services, televisions, etc., etc. And if you know your regulations, then you might immediately notice a problem here. All the things at the top are things that are very heavily regulated, especially medical care, childcare, food, and...
That is a fucking lie. He is lying here. What the fuck are you talking about? Okay, dude. Yeah, man, totally, because there's a ton of regulations on fucking household furnishings, cell phones, and software. Buddy, do you not know what fucking outsourcing is? All of these fucking products that are at the bottom of the graph are fucking outsourced to people for a cheaper fucking labor. And so, guess what? Since a lot of the fucking corporations don't have to pay as much for labor of those fucking products, they can afford to significantly lower the prices on those fucking products. No. Not to mention technological advancements can also have an effect on this as well, and cheaper forms of manufacturing through technological advancements also have an effect on the prices of these goods, whereas again, with the stuff at the fucking top, it's been a lack of fucking regulation that has caused significant increases in the prices of all of these, I would say, inelastic fucking goods. Because, as I have said before, if you are an individual who is sick, you are willing to pay anything, and I mean anything, in order to be able to not be sick anymore, or to be able to participate within colleges or whatnot, in order to be able to get a fucking good job. There's been a lot of fucking regulations that have been pro-corporate that benefited them, making it such that the prices on these fucking services went up fucking significantly. And the outsourcing that, for example, happened on all the stuff on the bottom has made it such that, as a result of people not having to pay as much for a lot of the labor costs needed to build these products, it makes it such that the prices of these things go down significantly.
Especially medical care, childcare, food, and housing, or just general hospital services, of course. And so we're seeing that regulation actually just consistently makes the marketed attacks worse. Which, again, remember the cheat code.
Again, like I said before, this is just a lie. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. Premiums are about to go up, for example, because of the fucking cuts that happened in the One Big Beautiful Bill. They are slated to fucking double. And if those ACA tax fucking subsidies do not get put back in, premiums are also going to go back up again. He's lying here. That is actually an example of regulation bringing down the fucking costs of fucking healthcare. Again, nonsensical.
When you know that the only way to get people to do things is by force or by voluntary association, it makes perfect sense. But let's just focus on the one at the top here as just the kind of obvious example, hospital services. This one is just so obviously caused by regulation that even somewhat authoritarian and left-leaning think tanks have acknowledged that unnatural monopolies created by patent regulations are some of the biggest causes behind rising healthcare costs. And of course, there's no evidence whatsoever that making it free
Bro, what the fuck does biotech monopolies have to do with hospital services? That's fucking nonsensical, you fucking idiot. That's a completely fucking different part of the healthcare debate. No, the reason for as to why a lot of these fucking hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, and also insurers have gone up significantly in terms of pricing is because of the lack of regulation that has been happening consistently. Again, like I've talked about this before the ACA and the PPA, the Patient Protections Act, which people tend to fucking ignore, it was essentially the wild west for fucking healthcare within the United States of America, where any fucking random bullshit can be fucking done. Like, unironically, an insurer could refuse service to you, like, because hypothetically speaking, let's say you get into a fucking car accident, okay? You got into a car accident, and it's going to, if uninsured, cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get the surgeries, in order to fix that, because it's a particularly bad car accident. Sure, whatever. If there was a point within your medical history that your insurance company has access to that basically says, like, oh, this great uncle once had fucking cancer or some shit, because this would happen consistently. They had fucking cancer. We can't agree to help pay for your the insurance in order to help you pay for that fucking hospital bill because of the fucking cancer that happened that long ago. We have no idea if that accident's going to flare up any cancer symptoms as a result of that. It's nonsense. It's an excuse to essentially have these insurance companies, these fucking vultures, essentially try to make more money off of not paying their fucking dues in terms of insurance, because that's exactly how the profit incentive works for those companies, MentisWave, to not fucking pay out and force people to have to pay way more money in hospital services, in pharmaceuticals and drugs and whatnot, and also in fucking insurance. That's how it works, buddy.
More Medicaid and Medicare reduces those costs at all. And all of this just adds another layer of problems on top of subsidizing demand. The government will often subsidize demand by trying to make it free, while not getting rid of the problem that they caused, mind you, by regulations, and instead they just force the taxpayer to pay for the problem that government created, thus making the economy more and more inefficient. But I think when it comes...
That's fucking nonsensical, dude. Like, already there's been, because of the laissez-faire approach to fucking healthcare, is already causing tons of inefficiencies. For example, ask yourself this fucking question. Do you really want your fucking doctor to be constantly on the phone with insurance fucking companies, having to talk with them about, like, what is the appropriate rate, what is the copay that's necessary for this procedure, what is the deductible that has to be paid, yada 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 yada, what gets covered in these terms of these procedures based off of the insurance program that someone has. Instead, what would be significantly more efficient if you, for example, had a Medicare for All system, which would cut out all of that fucking bullshit. You'd have doctors who would be able to service fucking people and spend more time servicing and caring for fucking people. Like, the things that this guy wants are significantly more inefficient. What this dude wants, and that is basically a laissez-faire system for medical insurance, for medical care within the United States of America, would make the problem significantly worse.
Comes to regulations, the biggest problem, and I think the biggest lie behind why so many people, and this is the one that even hits some people on the right, or general Republicans and conservatives often fall for this one, the last very big lie is the lie that corruption is a feature of the free market. This idea that lobbying, revolving doors, and political donors and all the corruption that often stems from that is in fact all because of capitalism, and we need socialism to fix it. And this one's kind of an annoying lie. It's a very pervasive lie, and I've noticed that it's a big reason behind why...
Who on the fucking right says that? Like, what? No, they would just talk about Jews. Like, okay, bro.
So many people are turning to socialism, which is insane because when you actually understand it, you realize that this corruption is actually a function of socialism and authoritarian policies and has absolutely nothing to do with the free market.
Wait, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, the free market's the current system that is in place right now in the United States of America. It's an authoritarian government now? Under fucking Biden or Obama? I mean, you can make the argument that Trump is trying to do that, and that he is a wannabe authoritarian. And is the free market currently not in place right now? And it's currently fucking socialist? Again, fucking nonsense.
And the issue at hand seems to be that you have to kind of understand multiple components of economics and how things work, and you have to understand them all simultaneously to truly be able to see through this lie. It's very obviously a massive and insanely stupid lie when you finally get it. It actually might be one of the most obvious things wrong, at least from my perspective. But that's because I've kind of autistically studied a lot of this stuff. And it's only when you really get things does it become apparent. Now, the long answer...
He's autistically studied this stuff, yet he keeps going back to, like, the reductive fucking bullshit that he keeps saying. It's like, guys, economic exchange only exists on two principles, whether an exchange through power or an exchange through two willing parties. Yeah. I have artistically studied economics. I have a very, very astute understanding as to how all this shit works now.
I've actually done an entire video on. It was a Refuting Bread 2 episode where I was going over second thought. But here's a short answer. Here's the simplest way I could possibly explain it, and I must once again resummon the cheat code. Remember how transactions in trade negotiation are either voluntary or they are not?
Dude, it's honestly, it's like, it's just reduction to just this simple fucking Mycenaean fucking principle, because I'm pretty sure this is the exact same shit that fucking Mises used to say. Like, it's nonsense. It's obviously not that fucking simple. Like, it's just complete fucking reductionism here.
This is pretty much a true dichotomy that lies at the heart of true economic understanding. Well, ask yourself this. Why is it when a corporation or a rich person tries to bribe a politician through whatever various means of bribery, whether in illegal way or by exploiting some legal loophole, which most of them do, doesn't really matter which one, why are they doing that? And the answer comes from the fact that they have correctly identified that what government really does is that it just moves value around without producing. It is essentially a
So, wait, hold on. I thought it was because there's, like, loopholes that existed, and you pointed out these loopholes before, but now it's because, like, a forehead, just the government inefficient forehead. Like, you're not being consistent with your fucking story here, buddy.
unproductive class. If trade was voluntary, if people truly wanted something that was coming from the government, they would fund it voluntarily. And so when they're bribing the government, they're always bribing them from a standpoint of wanting the force side.
Okay, so here's an example. I, a simple citizen, want to fund this particular exchange of, I don't know, radishes. Okay, let's say I have a bunch of radishes and I want to go to the market in order to be able to freely exchange that. But there's this corporation who has their own private army that they paid for, voluntarily of course, and they go to me and say, like, those are some nice radishes that you have here. It would be a darn shame if someone decided to take them. And I'd be like, I don't know, are you willing to talk with this, and negotiate for my fucking radish business or some shit for all these radishes I grow? And they'd be like, no. Why should we? I have all these dudes with guns, and I have way fucking more money than you do. So we're just going to inherently force you to forcefully take over this fucking successful radish business that you have. I'm not going to fucking operate on a fair basis of negotiation with you. Because again, like, all the things that this guy attributes the government to, the corporations have done consistently. For example, East India Company was a private fucking institution, which had the blessings of the crown and had the authority of the crown to be able to operate and do whatever they want, but they were still a private corporation. What would they do consistently within the British Raj, for example? Economically force people and coerce them in order to have terrible deals or have to take territory for themselves forcefully. There was not willing exchange being done there very often by the East India Company and all these other like private institutions that were established by these various fucking monarchies when they were doing conquests of differing fucking territories. MentisWave.
Of the true dichotomy. In other words, they're just hiring a hitman. And so this kind of then brings us back to the whole tongue-in-cheek humor on Bernie Sanders, the government is corrupt and the solution is more government. But another way to put it is that the hitman is doing evil things, and the solution is to give the hitman more guns and allow the hitman to do more.
That's what corporations do consistently. This is fucking nonsense. Like, yeah, dude, the government's going to hire more dudes with guns if you decide to not, I don't know, exchange on a basis of like free value of exchange or something. It's fucking stupid, man.
Or evil things. And if we do that, then the hitman will prevent people from hiring him to do hitman things. Yeah. And socialists have really done a very good job obfuscating this. And they often don't want to admit the fact that their economic ideas really only have the praxis of force. And thus, they're the ones that are at fault for this nonsense. If you want to reduce corruption, the reality is the only
actually fucking nonsensical when there's instances throughout history of private corporations doing that consistently. But whatever, dude.
Way to do it is by having an economy and a society that values voluntary trade over the force. So you either reduce the number of hitmen or get rid of the hitman entirely, and that's really pretty much the only thing you can do. The opposite side of this, like say in communist China, they haven't gotten rid of the hitman. In fact, in China, it's even worse because in China, the hitman and the person who would be hiring the hitman are one and the same person, because that's what happens when the government...
What the fuck are you talking about? There's still free market capitalism and like ability to exchange within China, for example. Like this, again, it's nonsensical. Just because there's a lot more state-run and regulations, and the state runs more closely together with the fucking corporations and the companies, doesn't mean that they just randomly decide to throw out fucking hitmen in order to coerce those companies to do certain things. They only do that when the laws within China get consistently broken. Again, this is fucking nonsense, dude.
Government starts taking over private enterprise. And so that's why the idea that
Which, by the way, is the same thing that the United States of America does.
Fix this with socialism is completely insane. When you get rid of the free market, all you're really doing is just allowing the government to consolidate more power and consolidate more wealth in hopes that the hitman will just do the right thing out of the goodness of his heart, which, spoiler alert, is just not a thing. Anyways, that's all I have to say for this one. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if
nonsensical bullshit from another Mycenaean fucking libertarian, reducing everything to just a dude. It's only either like the government using force to just get what they fucking want from people in terms of economic fucking exchange, or just, the free market only being allowed to operate because of the fact that it always operates off of like a voluntary sort of exchanges, when that's obviously not the fucking case. Again, hey, MentisWave, stuff like loan shark businesses are a fucking goddamn thing. They often use force in order to make sure that they get their fucking money back. And a lot of corporations, if you do owe them fucking money, will hire a bunch of fucking loan shark people in order to make sure that they get their fucking money back. That doesn't seem like a free sort of exchange that's being done there. Or they'll get the police in order to do that. That's their fucking loan sharks again. Obviously, nonsensical bullshit here from fucking MentisWave in terms of how. God, he didn't even really refute any of the socialist fucking policies whatsoever. He just like put random out of context snippets of fucking articles and random fucking studies that had generally like no prevalence the certa to either the location that is in question or in terms of the time frame. Like he was referring to like 30-year-old fucking studies pre fucking Great Recession in order to refute rent control and rent freezes. It's fucking completely nonsensical. But then again, I expect nothing less from a Mycenaean fucking economist, I guess, for lack of a better term, who basically just operated off of a rather reductive, incredibly fucking reductive sense for how free economic exchange generally happens. But then again, I don't think there's really much else to say besides as expected of the Mycenaean fucking libertarian who puts in like I don't know like random schizo like AI videos about how literal fucking MSNBC is programming people's brains to be sheep. Yeah, dude, MSNBC, known far leftist fucking outlet, MSNBC, whatever, dude, stupid. In order to just operate off of the assumption that people just want to be fucking poor and not be able to engage in the economy, and that is why people are wanting to have like socialism, because they're being all programmed by the media to fucking think like this. It's fucking stupid, it's nonsensical, and I expect no less from a stupid fucking Mycenaean libertarian to spread fascistic idiotic conspiracy theories. Don't think there's much else to say besides that.